Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you all are staying safe and well. My name is Ali Tefenjan, and I'm the Education and Engagement Manager at the Hopkins Center. And I'm so excited to welcome you to our HopStop at Home, part of our virtual Hop at Home programming. And for folks who may not know, our HopStops are free shows for families in our community. And today I'm so excited to introduce Simon Brooks, who is a storyteller. He'll be telling story tales for the whole family. And he's been telling stories, I hear, for about 30 years. So he really knows his stuff. And his mission is to keep the art of storytelling alive and empower other people to tell their stories. And he's done some great work with the Children's Literacy Foundation, too, which is this organization that provides books and literacy programs to young folks, under-resourced young people from around New Hampshire and Vermont. And he's also got a great youth adventure podcast. It's called Lindy Line. So you can check that out on his website. If you Google Simon Brooks, you could find that pretty easily. So in a second, he's going to tell his stories. And you might hear some stories that are a little bit older, some stories that are newer, and some stories that are brand new, because we know that some of you submitted some drawings beforehand to help inspire some of Simon's stories. So you might recognize some of those drawings later on as he tells a brand new story. And we also want to encourage you to use the comment section to share your reactions about stories. So for instance, if something makes you laugh, gasp, or maybe makes you go, ooh, we want you to note that in the comments because we want to know what you're thinking about each story. And finally, we also want to know if you have any questions for Simon. So you can use that comment section as we go to maybe ask how old the story is that he's telling, if he came up with it himself, or maybe why the goat was in the tree in the first place. If you have any questions, I'm going to be popping back on, so I'll be able to ask Simon some of those questions, and I'll get to that, as many of them as I can. Okay? So with that, welcome, Simon.
Why the goat was in the tree in the first place. I couldn't answer that if I tried. I love that, Ali. Thanks so much indeed. So I hope everyone's doing really well today. I hope everyone's staying safe. If you hear a banging on a drum, it's this thing right here. I might not play it too often, but I'll probably play it. So thanks everyone for joining us today with the HopStop at Home event. I'm very excited about this. We're going to be doing another one tomorrow as well, but that's going to be at 11 a.m. But we'll talk about that later, I guess. The first story I'm going to tell you is one of my favorite characters. This dude right there, Anansi the spider. Now, Anansi the spider originally comes from Ghana. And like a lot of people from Ghana, he was when his people were stolen away from the country and forced into labor in other countries, Anansi went with them. And he discovered these lots of new different places. And one of these places was Antigua. Do you know where Antigua is? You don't? Maybe some of you do. But Antigua, I'll show you. So Antigua, if you look at a map of America, you've got Florida that comes down like this, right? And then at the end of Florida, you've got Cuba. And then you've got Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And then you've got Puerto Rico. And then it looks like someone took a string of islands and threw them off the edge of Puerto Rico, and they all fell down almost as far as Venezuela. Well, one of those first islands near the top is called Antigua. And Anansi was visiting Antigua. And as he was looking around, he saw a tree that he'd never seen before. Have you ever been to a place where you've discovered something brand new that you've never seen before? This was like Anansi, and he saw this tree that he'd never seen before, and he looked at it, and it looked like it was a little bit sticky, and so he touched it and tasted. It was honey. It was a honey tree. He'd never seen such. There was no hive or anything. So Anansi, he thought, well, I'm going to try some of this. This is good. And so he stuck his lips up against it. And he sucked and sucked and sucked and sucked and sucked and sucked and sucked some more until he was so full he couldn't eat any more. And he went to move away, take his face from the tree. But he found his lips were stuck. let it go, honey tree, let it go. Stop it, honey tree, let it go, let it go. Let me go, honey tree, let me go. Stop it, let me go. And he pulled and pulled, but the tree did not let Anansi go. The tree just looked down at Anansi and said, my name is not honey tree. My name is Wheelum. Now, when Anansi told me this, I thought, William? And I was like, no, it was Wheelum. Okay. And so Anansi was stuck there on the tree. He's like, okay, Wheelan, let it go, Wheelan. But the tree started to turn around with Anansi's lips still stuck to it. And the tree got faster and faster until Anansi, his legs were starting to fly out. His abdomen was tucking out behind him. And then all of a sudden the tree let go. Anansi was in a big pile of dust, a little bit bent and crooked, and a tad bit bruised. But he stood up and he brushed himself off, and he looked back at the tree and thought, oh, I could have some fun with this. Now, when Anansi says I can have some fun with this, what he really means is I can have some fun at other people's expenses. Or expense. Other people's expense. That's what it is. Other people's expense. And so Anansi looked around and he saw a cow. And he's, oh, Mrs. Cow, come over here, come here. This is beautiful honey tree. You should try some of the honey. Come on over, try some of this. And Mrs. Cow, okay, I'll have some of that. And she put her lips up against it and, she started sucking on it. And she sucked and sucked and sucked until she was full and Anansi's waiting. She couldn't move her lips away from the tree, just like Anansi. Honey tree, let me go. My name is not honey tree. My name is Wheelum. Okay, Wheelum, let me go. And again, the tree started to turn around, and it got faster and faster, and the cow's running along, and then its legs started to lift up, its tail started to lift up, and then whoa, over the cow went. Well, when she stood up, she was a lot dustier and her tail was far more crooked than it was before. And Anansi was holding his belly. He was laughing so hard. I mean, who wouldn't laugh at a cow flying through the air? But I got to tell you this, I wouldn't stick a cow to a tree to make it happen. That's for sure. But Anansi, oh no, he didn't stop there either, no. There were Mr. Goat. Mr. Goat got his self stuck to the tree. And when he went flying through the air, his horns got stuck in the ground. He was upside down. He had to kick and wriggle. And Nancy's wiping tears from his face. He's laughing so hard. And then there was Mr. Tortoise, whose neck got longer and longer and longer and longer until he was let go and he went flying through the air. And Nancy was rolling on the floor, holding his belly, laughing so hard. And then there was little Cokie the frog, the whistling frog. Well, she went whistling over Nancy's head too, after a tongue had stretched out almost 1.5 yards long. And Nancy wasn't finished. He saw Monkey up in the tree, and he thought, oh, I got to do this to Monkey. And he caught up to Monkey in the tree. But Monkey, do you think Monkey knew what was going on? Oh, yeah. Monkey knew all right. He'd been watching Anansi with the last two animals. And so when Anansi caught up, hey, Monkey, come on down. I don't think so. You're trying to trick me. Oh, no, come on down. This is a honey tree. This is a beautiful honey tree. Well, why don't you have some first? Oh, no, I'm full. I've had plenty, thank you. Why don't you come down and try some? Well, the monkey came down the tree and walked up towards Anansi, sat down on its hind legs and folded its front legs. What makes you think I trust you? Well, I don't know, but I'm new here myself, and I just found it. I'm very excited. You should try some. No, you try it first. What if there are thorns underneath that sticky honey and they get stuck to my tongue, huh? Oh, well, no. There's no thorns. I tried it earlier. There's no thorns there. You should have some. I want you to try it first, Spider. Oh, no, because I might have it all up and finish it all, and I don't want to finish it. I want you to try it. Go on, Monkey. Nope. You do it first. And Monkey folded his arms again and put his tail over his feet. And Anansi walked up to the tree, and he whispered to the tree, Honey tree, I want to play a trick on Monkey. So don't stick me, okay? I'm going to try it right now. And Anansi put his lips. This is so yummy. Oh, yummy, yummy, yummy. Well, Monkey stood up and started walking away. And Nancy was like, this is so good. You should try some. And he tried to turn his head to look. But his lips were stuck to the tree again. Honey tree, you gotta let it go. My name is not Honey Tree. My name is Wheelam. Wheelam, please let it go. And then round the tree started to go. And Nancy saw, as he was spun around on the tree, he saw Monkey walking further and further away. And he saw Monkey grab hold of a thorn on a big thorn bush and break it off. And then Monkey looked at the tree, looked at Anansi spinning around. Oh yeah, maybe back a little bit, maybe here. And he planted it in the ground and stood to one side as the tree, Wheelam, let Anansi go. And there went Anansi through the sky. A Monkey stepped to one side and Anansi landed on it in a most uncomfortable place, I have to say. And he jumped up, yelling and screaming. He pulled the thorn out from him and took off through the forest. Monkey thought, well, I don't suppose Anansi's going to be playing any more tricks on people. But those of us who know Anansi, well, we know he'll be up to his tricks a lot sooner than later. And that's the story of Anansi and the honey tree.
Wow. I was
Like
picturing, I do like that one. Yeah. I was just, well, the thing I want to know, well, actually, no, let me share a couple of comments that came up from folks in the audience. We had some people aptly putting some honey emojis in there, which, nice. Yeah, I agree. Corey says, yum. And Zozo brings up a very good point. Zozo says that could be the reason. That could be the reason the cow went over the moon.
I wonder.
Maybe it was Wheelam with Anansi playing tricks on the cow and making the cow spin and fly over the moon.
I love that. I wonder if that's true. The cow went over the moon.
Yeah.
So
Simon, I'm wondering for you, is there anything for you that would be the equivalent of honey for you? Like, what would you, if it's not honey, like, what is it?
Chocolate, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate, yeah. The darker the better. My favorite is, are we allowed to do placements?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, my favorite is green and black. I really like green and black. But the endangered species and also, what's the other company? I can't think of the other company. Free Trade, the Free Trade brand. They do a really good salt and caramel. Which is divine. But my go-to, which, you know, we have a drawer, a candy drawer in the house, which also has like chocolate, and we have a little card catalog to make sure that we check it in and out. Not really.
Yeah.
So you ready for another story?
Yeah, I think we're ready. Take it away, Simon.
All right, I will. Now, the next story I'm going to tell you, this is an English story. This isn't from Ghana. This is a story from England. And the original title of this story is Lazy Jack. Now, when I read this story, I thought, well, Jack isn't really lazy, because in the story he goes out and he does work every day, so that doesn't make much sense. But he starts off lazy at the very, very beginning. Or maybe he's just like hanging around at home like all of us are right now. But as I was learning the story, you know, there's a lot of stories with John, and there's a lot of stories with Jack, and I kept calling him Jack, and then I kept calling him John, and so I decided in the end to take a bit of artistic license, and so the character's name is Jack John, which is like calling me Simon Simon, because Jack and John is, you know, they're a nickname for one another, or Jack is a nickname for John, which makes no sense whatsoever, but it just is. Jack John, a story from England. Jack John lived alone with his mother, and they weren't very rich at all. They were quite strapped for cash, if you will. Jack John's mom worked really hard to bring in the few pennies that she could to put food on the table. But Jack John, he was about 11, 12, 13 years of age. He was in that kind of age range. And you know what boys that age do all the time, don't you? right? You do. I bet Zozo knows. Especially if she's got a brother about that age. They eat and they sleep and 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 they eat some more. Right? And this was what Jack John did. He just ate and he slept. And his mother was like, Jack John, you're going to eat us out of house and home. No sooner as I got some food on the table, it's gone. There's nothing left for me. You've got to go and find yourself a job to pay for extra food. Well, Jack John was probably the only child in the whole of history, in the whole of the universe, that actually listened to his parents. And he said, okay, Mom. And the next day, which was Monday, he went up to a local farm to get himself a job. It was a dairy farm. And he worked really, really hard. And at the end of the day, he was given a big, shiny copper penny for his pay. Now, a copper penny in those long, long, long ago days, that was a lot of money. And Jack John was so excited, he started tossing the coin up in the air and catching it, tossing the coin up in the air and catching it, and tossing the coin up in the air and catching it. And he made his way through the town, tossing the coin up in the air and catching it, tossing the coin up in the air and catching it. Made his way over the bridge to get back home, and he tossed the coin up in the air and... Oh no, oh bother! Well, my pay, I just dropped it in the river. Well, he ran to the edge of the bridge, made his way along the edge of the river, where he thought he dropped the coin in and waded out, looking for that coin. But maybe the coin had slid down between two rocks. Maybe it had settled down and sunk beneath some mud. Jack John couldn't find it. And he made his way home. And his mum saw him and she said, Jack John, why are you soaking wet from the waist down? Well, I'm sorry, Mom, but I got paid a whole copper penny for my day's work. Oh, that's marvellous, Jack John. Well, where is it? Well, that's the problem, you see. That's why I'm so wet. I was so excited. I was tossing the coin up in the air and catching it, tossing the coin up in the air and catching it. And as I was crossing the bridge, I tossed it in the air and I never caught it, and it went splosh in the river and I lost it. I did try looking, though. That's why I'm all wet and soggy. Oh, Jack John, you shouldn't have been tossing the coin up in the air and catching it. You know, when you get paid tomorrow, put your pay in a pocket, all right? And that way you won't lose your pay. All right, Mom, I will. I'll put my pay in my pocket tomorrow. And because Jack John was the only kid in the whole of the history, in the whole of the universe that ever did what his parents said, when he got paid the next day, he put it in his pocket. Now, it was lucky that Jack John had on a big coat with a big inside pocket. A poacher's pocket is what I call them. A big poacher's pocket. Because he wasn't given a coin. No. Do you know what he was paid with this time? A whole pitcher, a whole jug of milk. And when he got that jug of milk, he put it in that big inside pocket. Now, a jug of milk was worth more than a penny to Jack John. And he was so excited, he's dancing and skipping all the way home, through the town, dancing and skipping, over the bridge, dancing and skipping. And when he got home, his mother said, Jack John, did you have an accident on the way home? He's like, no, why? Oh, no, maybe I did. Oh, no, I know what it is. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. And he reached into his pocket and he pulled out the pitcher of milk, but there was only a little bit left in the bottom. Well, I put it in my pocket when I was coming home, Mom, just like you said. There's still enough left for porridge. And she took it and said, yeah, there is enough for porridge, but you shouldn't have carried your pay home in your pocket like this. When you get paid tomorrow, Jack John, carry it in your hands, and that way you won't spill any. All right, Mom, I'll carry my pay in my hands. So she was able to make porridge that night with some milk, and that was good. And the next day, when Jack John got paid, he carried it home in his hands. Was it a pitcher of milk, a jug of milk? It wasn't. He was given a cat. Now, this wasn't like a nice little kitty cat, a little purry, scratch it behind the ears, and he goes, oh, it wasn't one of those kitty cats, no. This was a barnyard cat. Barnyard cats are huge, and if they're hungry, they sit down on their back haunches, and they get their front paws out and go, gosh, gosh, I'm hungry. Where are the mice and rats? Feed me now. Ah! This was one of those cats, a big old barn cat, and there was Jack John holding it in his hands, and there was a barn cat in Jack John's grip going, nice kitty, good kitty. Wow. And Jack John started carrying this little cat home. Nice kitty, good kitty. We'll get all the way home and everything will be fine. Wow. Well, the cat got fed up as it was starting to go through the town. Ow! Bad kitty, good kitty, nice kitty, cool, please, please, please don't scratch me again. Ow! Bad kitty, naughty kitty. And the cat started scratching and biting at Jack John's hands, and Jack John tried to get as far as the bridge to get the cat home, but he couldn't. He let go. And when Jack John got home, his mum saw his hands were covered with blood. And Jack John, whatever happened to you? Well, I carried my pay home in my hands, like you said. Well, what were you paid? Well, I was given a kitty cat, but it wasn't a little purry little kitty cat. It was a big old barnyard cat, a big scratchy bitey cat, and he bited and scratched me, and I couldn't carry him home. Oh, Jack John, you shouldn't have carried your cat home like this. When you get paid tomorrow, Jack John, you tie up your pay. Put some string around it and pull it along after you. That's what you need to do. All right, Mom, when I get paid tomorrow, I'm going to tie it up with a string and pull it along with me. And that night, before he even went to sleep, he put a ball of string in his pocket so he wouldn't forget. Because Jack John was the only kid in the whole of history, in the whole of the world, that ever listened to his parents. Mean anything? Well, Jack John went to work. And when he got paid, he tied it up. But what do you think he got paid this time? It wasn't a coin. It wasn't a pitcher of milk. It wasn't a kitty cat. It was a leg of mutton. A leg of mutton is a leg of sheep. Big old piece of sheep. And so Jack John took the string out of his pocket and tied it all up and dropped it on the ground, started walking off. Get away, doggy, that's my piece of meat. Get away, kitty cat, that's mine. And Jack John started running. You little whippersnappers, you leave my meat, that's mine. And he ran and he ran. He ran all the way through the town, all the way over the bridge. And he got home and he held up the meat. Here, Mum, I got my pay. Well, most of it anyway. I got my pay. I tied it up with string just like you said. Oh, Jack John, you shouldn't have carried that home with a piece of string. You should have put it over your shoulder. But there's still enough meat on it for some stew. Let me clean it off. Now, when you get paid tomorrow, Jack John, put your pay over your shoulder. All right, Mum, I will. And they cleaned off the meat. Took all the bits of sticks out, all the bits of grass, all the bits of stone and gravel out of it. Looked like road rash when you fall off your bike. That's how bad it was. Well, they cleaned up the meat and they had stew that night. Well, when Jack John got to work the next day and put a hard day's work in, do you know what he got paid? Any ideas? It was a donkey. Yep, it was a donkey. Not a huge donkey. It was a young little donkey, but it was still a donkey. And Jack John, he looked at this beast and he's like, well, my mom says I got to throw my pay over my shoulders. Well, Jack John had no idea how strong he was. He bent down, stuck his head under the donkey and lifted it up. He's got front legs here, he's got rear legs there, and the donkey, do you think it was happy? It was so not happy. And it started braying and kicking, and Jack John, come on, hold still, donkey, I'm going to get you all the way home. And he started to make his way home. Now, there's one thing about this story that I haven't told you yet. And that is, in the town that Jack passed through each day, there was a mayor. Now, this is a funny word for me to say in America because a lord mayor. Do you get that? You know, like the man in charge of the town. Yeah, he was a lord mayor. And he had a daughter. And when his daughter was born, sadly, she was born without the ability to speak. She could not talk. Now, the mayor, being a rich man, he took his daughter to doctor after doctor to try and make her well. But none of the doctors could fix her. This was a long time ago. And so the mayor, being the mayor, he had a proclamation made. He had a big statement written out. And on that statement it said, whoever can make my daughter speak can marry her. Because, you know, dads could do that in those days, right? So that's what dads would do. They would say, you're going to marry this boy here. And the girls would be like, but I don't like him. He's got spots. He's got zits. You know, it's like, well, you're going to marry him anyway, because dads could do that. It was terrible. And this is what the Lord Mayor said. Whoever can make my daughter talk can marry her. Well, she had been sitting at a window in the house, in the living room, that looked out onto the street when Jack John had walked by on that Monday, tossing the coin up in the air and catching it. And she had thought to herself, when she saw him, she thought, wow, he's a handsome lad. Look at him go. And he's got a penny. He must be rich. I like him. That's what she was thinking. And on Tuesday, the next day, she saw him. He's dancing and skipping and jumping all. Oh, look, he can dance. Oh, I like a man that can dance. Oh, I like him. He's rich. He can dance. He's nice. And then the next day, because she didn't see the milk, right? She just saw him jumping about. Well, the next day, there he was. What was he carrying? The cat, that's right. And the cat was scratching and fighting. She, oh, he's ever so brave. Look at that cat. It's tearing his hands apart. Oh, that poor lad. Oh, he can dance and he's got money too. He's ever so cute. That's what she was thinking. And then the next day, and he's running home with that leg of mutton, and she, oh, he's so funny. What a silly boy. He's funny and he can dance, and he's brave and he's got money and he's good looking too. She was thinking all these things. So on Friday, when Jack John was making his way home with that donkey, you can bet your bottom dollar she was waiting, and she was not disappointed. Oh no. Jack John came along carrying a donkey on his back, struggling with his leg kicking, his head going up. And when she saw Jack John through a window doing such a ridiculous thing as carrying a donkey on his back, she burst out laughing. You know that big snort laughter that you sometimes give, and snot comes out, goes out your nose and big bubbles. It was one of those kinds of she just burst out laughing. Oh my gosh, Daddy, this boy is so funny. Oh my gosh, he's got a donkey on his back. Well, the Lord Mayor heard this. He came running in. My darling, you can talk. What's going on? This boy, look at him. He's got a donkey on his back. I can talk, Daddy. He made me talk. Well, the mayor was a man of his word. And so he went outside and told Jack John to put the donkey down and tie it to a hitching post, which he did. And then he brought Jack John into the house and introduced him to his daughter, who was about the same age as Jack John. And he said, well, because you made my daughter talk, I said whoever could do that could marry my daughter. Well, you're a bit young right now, but when you're of the right age to marry, the two of you can be married. And they were. Now, at first, Jack John moved in with her and her dad and her mom. But the mayor wasn't too keen on having Jack John around 24/7, and so he gave them a bit of money to set themselves up in their own business, which they did. And that paid enough money for them to have their own house. And Jack John's mom moved in with them. And I hope they had wonderful adventures in their lives together. And I hope that they lived happily ever after. The end.
Yay. Oh, I hope that they did too. I really hope that they did too. After all of Jack John's carrying things in the wrong ways.
I know, but he listened well, right? And isn't that the success of a good marriage?
Yeah, that's what I hear. What also is funny about that story is I feel like there might be a kind of scary message in there that maybe you shouldn't always listen to your parents, like maybe. At least in the literal sense, because it seemed like that's what got him in trouble a little bit with carrying all the things.
Right, but there's another thing that I sometimes think about these stories, right? I mean, it's called Lazy John, the Lazy Jack, and he's not lazy at all, because he goes to work and he earns all this money and he does what he's told. But because he does everything so literally, and so precise, and he doesn't, I don't want to say he doesn't think outside of the box. He just follows directions really, really well. I wonder that maybe not this story, but some of the other stories, were these stories talking about kids that might have had autism, and because they didn't have a name for it back in these days, but I'm sure it happened like back in history. So why shouldn't there be stories about kids with autism? And I sometimes wonder if some of these stories where the kids are not lazy and they're not stupid, they're just like super vigilant about doing what they're told to do, and they're so focused on doing what they think is the right thing that maybe they're on the spectrum a little bit. I always wonder about that. Of course, we'll never know, right?
We'll never know. Yeah. Well, I think, Simon, you might have one or two more stories for us, so I want to make sure you have some time to do that.
I do. I have one. I'm looking at what's the. We got. Okay. So I do have one more story.
Or do we want to hop right into our drawings?
Or we could do that. Let's hop right into our drawings, I think, because all these people sent in pictures, which is absolutely brilliant. And I'm really excited about it. He said,
yeah, so as Simon's getting prepped with the drawings, I want to thank the folks that submitted. I got to see some of them. I want to thank the folks that submitted their drawings because they're fantastic. So Simon's going to be able to pull some of those drawings and create a brand new story for us. So
Right.
take it away, Simon.
So I have another hat here. I have a lot of hats. I'm a hat guy. So I've shuffled them all up, and I'm gonna just turn my face away. I'm gonna pull out one of the pictures, and I pulled out two. Throw one back. I'm gonna pull out the first picture, and this is gonna tell us where the story begins. Actually, that's what it's gonna tell us. This is wank wank. This is a story that was sent in by Nathaniel from Plymouth, Minnesota. He's age 10 apparently. Thanks very much, Nathaniel. I like this. I actually have a piece of artwork that I did myself, which is somewhat similar to this. It's beautiful. So I think we're going to start this story by saying, once upon a time, a long time ago, an elephant wanted to go on an adventure. And so he left the wilderness, the savannah of Africa. And he traveled and traveled and traveled. And then he saw a young person watching out over, everything's mirrored, so it's a bit wonky trying to get it straight. He saw this young woman, and the elephant. Hey, Ali, give the elephant a name. What name should we have?
Jenkins.
Jenkins. I like that. And this could be Jenny.
Ah.
Then we got Jenny Jenkins, right? So Jenkins the elephant went up to Jenny and put his trunk gently on her shoulder, very gently and very carefully, because he didn't want to upset her or startle her. And because this is a fairy tale, Jenkins could speak, and he said, "You look very lonely. What's going on? Is everything all right?" And Jenny turned around and said, "No, I'm not lonely. I'm just gazing at this beautiful, beautiful field." And Jenkins said, "Well, I'm going on an adventure. Would you like to come with me?" And Jenny said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And just then, in a tree that wasn't in that picture but was just out of shot, there was a woodpecker there, a woodpecker that was called Owen, a woodpecker that had come all the way from Hanover. And it said, "Oh, can I come too? Can I come too?" And so the woodpecker flew down, and Jenny was sitting on the elephant's neck, and they took off. And they traveled for many, many, many a day. And they came to this house. And because they've been traveling for a long way, this is from Cole in Hanover, they decided to knock on the door of this house. Now, there was something odd about this house, because when they knocked on the door and the door was opened, a giant ant, I think it is, opened up the door and said, "Come in." And you can see right here, wonderfully, ironically enough, I believe that this is Jenkins right here. And so they went in, but they saw that this giant ant had this shelf with all of these people trapped on the shelf. And Jenny said, "I don't think we should stay. I think we should leave here very, very quickly." And the woodpecker tended to agree. There's not a woodpecker in this picture as well, is there? Because that would be weird. No, there isn't. But the ant said, "Oh, come in and stay a while. Come and have some supper with us." And so they decided that they would stay for some supper because, you know, they were hungry. And so they did. But then, along came a princess and a unicorn. And they burst in just as they were starting to eat. And the prince said, "No, don't eat the food. It's enchanted and you'll end up stuck on those shelves up there. Come with me, come with me." And so they all run out, leaving the giant red ant and all those people on the shelves. Actually, they didn't leave the people on the shelves. They came and took those people on the shelves. And they ran with Princess Celine and the unicorn all the way to her castle. Because Celine was a princess, of course. All girls are well, not all girls, but Celine was definitely a princess. And she took them to the castle. Now, when they got there, let's see what happens here. When they got to the castle, there was a magical tree that was outside the front of the castle. It was a beautiful tree. And there was a young girl sitting underneath it called Allison, who was formerly from New York City, but fled this zombie apocalypse to be in New Hampshire, where it's nice and safe. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she was living here before all that happened. But she sat underneath this tree, and they saw that she was drawing this tree. And they admired her artwork greatly, for it was superb. Absolutely superb. Love that tree. And they passed the tree and they made their way into the castle. But when they got to the castle gates, there, guarding this castle, was a dragon. And the dragon wouldn't let them in, and it breathed its fiery breath. And it scared them a little bit. Stay away, this is my castle now. You know, you sneak away, you lose. Yes, it's my castle now, said the dragon, flapping its great wings. But Celine had a trick up her shoulder. And I only know this because I printed these pictures out. Because she had a pet crystal dragon. And she unleashed that crystal dragon. Can you see it all right? I hope you can. She unleashed the crystal dragon on the other dragon, and there was a great battle. But as they fought and fought and fought, they realized that they were of equal strength. And they realized that fighting was kind of not very smart to do at all. And so they stopped fighting, and the two dragons became great friends. And they became guardians of Celine's castle. And all those people that were kept trapped by that red ant, that giant red ant, they all became helpers at the castle. And what did they do? They all lived, say it with me, Alison, Ali, they all lived happily ever after. So a huge thank you to Avery, who did this cracking crystal dragon. And then and Ali is from Berwyn in Illinois. I don't know how she came to hear about this, but that's absolutely phenomenal. And then we got Palmer in Rapid City, who did this. I would love to see this in color, because I can see, in fact, I might print it out again just for my own edification and color it in, because it's so good. And this is from Alison in New Hampshire. And this is from Celine. Hello, Celine. Thanks for sending your pictures in, everybody. And this is Cole. I don't know where Celine was from. She didn't say. Oh, no, she did. No, she didn't. She didn't say where she was from or her parents. And this wonderfully crazy. When I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make this into a story? And it wasn't until I started telling the story that I figured out what was going to happen. And this is from Cole in Hanover. Thank you, Cole. Appreciate that. Owen Matthew in Hanover, age 5-year-old, doing a picture of a woodpecker like this. That is pretty darn good, I have to say. And then Jerry in St. Petersburg in Florida. Jerry, that is an outstanding picture. If you're 5, you're going to be really talented when you're my age. And I wish you also, I'm assuming that you're not 5. I'm assuming you're a bit older than that. But this is a superb picture. Good luck on your career as an artist, because I have a feeling that's probably what you'll want to do. And then also to Nathaniel in Plymouth, Minnesota, who's 10. I love this picture as well. So it's interesting that we had a couple of trees, and we had a couple of elephants, and we had a couple of dragons. They always say the best things come in threes, but I think this time everything came in pairs. What do you think, Ali?
Yes, I would agree. And I was thinking about the tree, and I was like, maybe the tree's Wheelum, the tree from the first story.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was Wheelum. It was. Yeah. It must have been Wheelum. And that's why she was drawing it, and she wasn't sticking her face up against it, because she must have seen, what was her name? Who did that picture of the tree again? Memory like Alison. Right? Yeah, Alison. Yeah. So Alison must have known not to stick a face up against the tree. And Alison, it's a good idea not to stick your face up against any kind of tree, regardless of whether it's got honey on it, because you never know what's been there before you have, right?
Especially now. Yeah.
Especially now.
Moral of the story for the day. Well, thank you so much, Simon. It was
You're very welcome. And we're going to see each other tomorrow too, right?
Yep. So Simon is going to be back with a whole new set of stories tomorrow, right here on our YouTube Live at 11 a.m. And you can submit more of your drawings. We want to see more of them because they're fantastic for the next set of stories. You can submit those to hop.programming@dartmouth.edu. And I also want to let folks know that our next set of Hop Stops, we're so excited. We're going to do a Kid Jam with Patrick Ross. That's going to be Friday, May 15th at 1 p.m. and Saturday, May 16th at 11 a.m. So we hope that you can tune in. But until then, stay safe, stay well, and see you later.